Politics is about discussing things with your friends that you don't necessarily agree about. Politics is about achieving the possible. It's about compromise. And I don't think any political party, even the Lib Dems, if it wanted to win outright, could possibly go into the next election claiming to renegotiate an entry back into the EU, and I don't think the EU would grant it. The EU would not consider Britain as a candidate until the political mess over Brexit is over. This needs to be politically established now, and that, I think, lies behind the article that Keir Starmer wrote in the Express. So ostensibly that article is a Brexit-leaning article. It's written in the Express, after all, and he says that the policy of the Labour Party is to pursue a relationship with the EU outside the EU and to make Brexit work. And yet, if you start trawling around through that article, it's quite clear that, first of all, Starmer comes out and says very clearly that he voted Remain. He doesn't say that he was wrong to vote Remain. He doesn't change his mind in any way. He does say that he understands why people voted to leave. He understands that they wanted a better health service, they wanted better wages, they wanted security, they wanted control over their lives. And he knows when he's saying all of that none of that exists at the moment. And he's also aware of the debate with Nigel Farage saying that Brexit has failed. But there's no point in saying we will reverse it. What we have to do is to demonstrate and to get the people on board with the idea that Brexit has failed and therefore it needs to be reversed. And that will take at least the lifetime of a parliament. That is why Starmer has written his very, very carefully worded article in a Brexit-leaning newspaper. It is an extraordinary piece of work. So behind this is the question, can Brexit be made to work? Could Brexit ever have worked? The answer is no. We only have to look at John Donne. No man is an island. We are not independent of the continent. And we are so aligned to the EU, we cannot survive without it. Starmer makes the point that we are spending £7 billion extra on food at the moment because of Brexit. Why are we surprised that there's food inflation? Why are we surprised that there's a cost of living crisis? That is not because of the Ukraine, primarily. That's because of Brexit, primarily. The Ukraine doesn't help. But it's Brexit which has pushed the prices up. Why? Because we have so much bureaucracy to complete in order to get our food here on our tables. We're outside the single market. We're outside the EU. And that involves a barrage of bureaucracy, and that is never going to change. Even if we align our standards, all we're going to get is fewer checks, not zero checks. And it's going to be at some point during the next Labour Parliament, during the next Labour government, that people will start saying, well, why don't we just get back into Europe? If we're so aligned with Europe, why don't we just go back in? And that noise will get so loud that Starmer, or indeed another government, maybe not the Conservative government, I think the Conservative Party is probably going to fracture and probably going to disappear. I think we're going to be looking at a different combination of right-wing parties, and I think we might see a revival of the Liberal Party. About time. I don't think the present Conservative government or the present Conservative Party can survive this EU disaster. I think we're going to end up with a very, very right-wing party which will preserve the ERG bit And I think we're then going to see a more moderate party, a sort of a sort of liberal party. And I think that will be the future centre ground for the opposition to the Labour Party. And I think we might go into a period of political life which is essentially dominated by the Labour Party rather than the Conservative Party. If the 20th century was dominated by the Conservative Party, the 21st century may well be dominated by the Labour Party. And I think the Conservatives had everything to play for, and they gambled, and they played to the gallery because they were fools. They played to Farage because they were fools. And they should have taken warning from the racism and the sloganizing that dominated Farage's fancy. Because none of the Brexit plans were worked out. Nobody had actually thought what Brexit meant. Nobody had looked at it in detail. The civil servants hadn't done it, but significantly parties like UKIP hadn't done it. I know, I was there. So I didn't think Brexit was even a possibility because nobody could tell me what a post-Brexit world would look like. Nobody had thought. And it was a pipe dream. I think this article in the Express probably will be one of the definitive articles of the 21st century. And we will be coming back to it again and again and again. And we will be looking at the details in it. Starmer is appealing for votes from Brexit supporters, but he's making it quite clear, if you read the text carefully, that he's preparing the way for a rejoining.